Okay, so I'd like to introduce our first Ignite talk, Ken Mugrage, Tales from the Wild. Welcome.
Sorry, me again. This is why you have to fill out the CFP, so your friends don't have to see me 4 times. But this one's going to be a little more lighthearted. I'm going to, gather around the dumpster fire for some stories. Some of these you heard from earlier talks and so forth, but kind of fun. But things that I've seen in a decade now of doing this. It's hard to believe Devopsdays is 10 years old. You already know who I am. But that's where these stories come from, is that experience and so forth. So, Ignite's got to wait 15 seconds because we already did the intro and I don't feel like doing it again. Okay, so first one. Went to a customer and they said our CI server sucks because we're trying to build all of our 26 feature branches and it's really slow and the merges are really bad because each of these lives on, the youngest one at the time was 3 weeks old. Yeah, didn't work. So your problem was in your CI server. This is where I rant a lot about trunk-based development and master-based development and so forth. And it depends on your architecture. But you're really going to want to avoid long-lived feature branches. They're an anti-pattern to continuous delivery, at least. Also, a disturbing number of times, I see a pipeline where it's multiple stages, and the first stage builds something, and the last stage deploys it, and they weren't really tracking carefully which version had gone all the way through. And so when it got to production, they're promoting the latest, not the one that's actually finished the pipeline. So please keep your artifacts organized. All CI tools can store things in Artifactory or Nexus or what have you. Make sure you're deploying the thing that actually went through the test, not just the latest. I hinted about this one earlier. It's really easy now to stick an app out there, and I'm going to do a service, and I'm going to do shadow ops. I'm going to put something out there with our logo on it, and I see this all the time, and it's very rarely compliant and so forth. And so you get a lot of trouble. But modern doesn't have to be fragile. Yes, as we've heard from a couple different speakers today, like the bank and so forth, getting stuff approved can be hard, but you really need to do it because it's not safe to just deploy your own and not do any of the testing. Speaking of which, there are people out there trying to steal your data. Sorry, it's true. Okay, and there's a time and place for anarchy, but your software is not that time or place. So again, watch these things and test for them. Great tools that Victoria talked about earlier. Make sure your stuff's a little secure, please. Speaking of which, I think the next one's security, if I did this right. Timing's off, sorry. Not very secure. Okay, so avoid security theater. Avoid doing the thing that looks like I have a nice lock up there, but the thing that's actually the weakness is not all that hard to bust. Security is everyone's job. Yes, you need pen testers and things like that, absolutely. We do them out of band, so we have a pipeline that's going, and meanwhile they're trying to attack it and so forth. But security is everyone's job. Building another silo is not a solution for silos. Please don't do this. Okay, I often see, we got the DevOps team, but again, the people developing the software don't really know how the things work and so forth. And so we do need cross-functional teams. And I know it's a buzzword and I know it's cliche, but you really do need those skills. And again, like I talked about this morning, it's not necessarily all the skills. There still might be platform teams, but cross-functional teams are really important to your success. Also, some great open source stuff has come out of companies like Netflix and Google and so forth, but please don't do it because they did, because you don't have their problems. You're not the same scale. Okay, learn from their lessons, but don't over-engineer your stuff. Focus on what you need. We had a project at ThoughtWorks that we did as microservices, and we didn't really know the business boundaries, and it was an utter failure. And so we did it as a monolith, and that was the right thing for that. So use the right thing for what you're trying to solve, please. Speaking of microservices, I mentioned this again earlier. I see this all the time and it's especially a problem in continuous delivery. I need to deploy these 3 versions of these 3 different services from 3 different teams together. Well, that might be a service-oriented architecture, but it's not a microservice. And so if you really want to take advantage, of the more modern architectures and the so forth, you really need to work on making them independent. Their own data sources, independently deployable, well-versioned APIs, all of the things. Nobody buys a hammer because they want a hammer. Okay, they buy a hammer because they want to build something. Okay, so that's not a house, that's a tool. A tool is just that. It's something that you get to go somewhere to get the thing you want. It's not the end state. And why I'm going to repeat this again this morning. There's nothing wrong with something being a security scanning tool or a compliance tool or a monitoring tool or a continuous delivery tool. No such thing as a DevOps tool. It's too broad. So that's all I got. Thanks.